Kakbhushundi arrived under the banyan tree, and he could feel the enthusiasm and the excitement in the audience. Closing his eyes, he mentally invoked Sri Ram and then began the story. Shurpanakha, to avenge herself for what Lakshman had done to her, had called her brothers Khara and Dushan and their 14,000 strong Rakshasa army to fight Sri Ram and Lakshman. But Sri Ram had single-handedly wiped out the entire Rakshasa army. Terribly shaken, Shurpanakha then rushed off to Lanka to complain to her brother Ravan. Storming into Ravan's court with her disfigured face, she wept and raged about all that had happened to her. She accused Ravan of having no idea of what was going on in different parts of his kingdom. All he did, she said, was quaff wine and slumber day and night. The 10-headed Ravan was shocked to see the sorry state that she had been reduced to, and he wanted to know who had dared do that to her while he was still around. So Shurpanakha explained all that had happened and described Sri Ram and Lakshman, their power and their splendor. Having seen them in action, she said, she was convinced that these two brothers had come to wipe the Rakshasa race off the face of the earth. And with them, she said, was the most exquisitely beautiful young woman. And in fact, it was just to procure that ravishing woman for Ravan that she had approached the two brothers in the first place. And what did Lakshman do? He sliced off her ears and cut off her nose. And then, when they learnt that she was Ravan's sister, they laughed and they made fun of her. So she rushed off to call Khara and Dushan and their army. But Sri Ram defeated and killed both the brothers along with the entire army. Ravan was incensed to hear this. He sent Shurpanakha off to rest and have herself treated. But he was greatly alarmed. That night he could not sleep a wink. He thought that all the Devtas, the Asuras, the Nagas, men, all of them were under his control. Khara and Dushan had been as strong and powerful as him. So who could have possibly defeated them? Was it possible, he wondered, that Bhagwan had taken avatar to bring relief to the Devtas and to lighten the burden of Prithvi Devi? If that was the case, Ravan decided that he would become an enemy of Sri Ram. But why would he do such a thing? Asked a shocked sparrow. Why couldn't he just love the kind and compassionate Sri Ram? Because, explained Kakbhushundi, in his tamasic Rakshasa body, such devotion was impossible for Ravan. What does tamasic body mean? Asked the jungle fowl in a very concerned voice. This whole world, explained Kakbhushundi, is a manifestation of Maya. It is she who creates, sustains and destroys the world when and as Bhagwan wills her to. Now Maya expresses as three qualities or gunas: Sattva guna, Rajoguna and Tamoguna. It is the combination and permutation of these three gunas that accounts for the great variety that exists in this universe. All of us are made up of the three gunas, and at any moment, one or the other of the three is always preponderant, and according to that, we have certain kinds of thoughts and actions. For example, suppose I am feeling very dull, sleepy, and I'm not able to understand things properly, then I should know that I am under the effect of tamoguna. when I'm full of enthusiasm and energy and I want to do this, that, and the other, then it is Rajoguna which is preponderant. And when my mind is peaceful, clear, and I'm seeking knowledge, then it is the effect of Sattva Guna. So, although we are all a combination of the three gunas, most of us have one guna which is preponderant. In Ravan's case, it was Tamoguna, hence the description tamasic Rakshasa body. But then the peacock wanted to know, what guna are we? So Kakbhushundi explained that when they were all seated, listening to the story, experiencing great joy and bliss, they were all under the effect of Sattva Guna. Then coming back to his story, Kakbhushundi said, Ravan had decided that he was going to be an enemy of Sri Ram in thought, word, and deed. He would fight Sri Ram, and if he was killed by Sri Ram, and Sri Ram was indeed Bhagwan, then he would attain liberation. That was certain. And if Sri Ram was not an avatar, but just an ordinary man, then Ravan would defeat the two brothers on the battlefield and he would kidnap the young woman with them. With this plan in mind, Ravan went off to meet Marich on the seashore. Then Kakbhushundi looked at his audience and said, do you remember that episode of Rishi Vishwamitra, how he had taken Ram and Lakshman to the forest to protect his yajna? Everyone bobbed their heads up and down. Yes, they remembered. And do you remember that Sri Ram killed Tadaka and Subahu, but he only flung Marich 800 miles away? Yes, yes, they nodded their heads, they remembered. And do you remember why Marich was not killed and spared? The wise owl had the answer. Because Marich represents wrong thinking, and wrong thinking can be set right. That's right, beamed Kakbhushundi. So it was that Marich that Ravan now went to meet. Marich had great illusory powers, and he could assume any form that he wanted to. So Ravan told him that he wanted him to assume the form of a golden deer. It would bewitch Sita. And when Sita asked Sri Ram to go after the deer and capture it for her, he, Ravan, would kidnap Sita. Marich was not at all happy to hear this plan. Ever since he had been flung to this part of the seashore, he had undergone a great transformation. He had recognized and accepted Sri Ram as the Supreme Lord. He had taken sannyas and he spent his time meditating on Sri Ram. But Marich dared not refuse Ravan because Ravan was not in the habit of taking no for an answer when he had made up his mind. So Marich realized that it was better to die at the hands of Sri Ram because then liberation or moksha was guaranteed. That was better than dying at the hands of Ravan. So he agreed to do what Ravan wanted him to. Meanwhile, Sri Ram was also preparing his plans. He knew what was going to happen. He knew that a Rakshasa would come to deceive him. And what Sri Ram's plans were, we will talk of tomorrow. The birds bowed down to Kakbhushundi, and with great joy they flew off for the night, considering themselves so blessed to have such wonderful story sessions to look forward to evening after evening.